welcome back to Street Bots Garage. My most common question on Instagram is how did I do the Motogadget bar end blinkers while running bar end mirrors? So let me show you. So this is what I have here. Joker Machine bar end mirror, Motogadget bar end blinker, a custom sleeve, and bar end expanders. So the issue that is going to happen to you, everybody, is that the outside diameter of the Motogadget blinker will probably not work with a lot of your stock mirrors because it's going to wobble. So here I'm going to give a huge shout out to Joker Machine for making me a custom sleeve that goes around the Motogadget blinker and goes inside of their mirrors, which will prevent the rattle. Slide in the provided sleeve and secure it with the set screw and the Allen key. Now that that's secure, we're now going to install the mirror. Now you can slide on your mirror. Here you want to pay attention that the orientation of your mirror is correct for the left-right side so you don't have to do it multiple times. And slip your mirror right in. Done. Next, we're going to secure it using the provided expanders. How these expanders work is that if you have hollow bars, one side is threaded and one side is not. So you put the threaded side on the outside of the stud, and as you thread in your Motogadget blinker, it will slip past and expand inside of your hollow handlebars and lock into place. So big shout out to Micah Dean from Dean Speed for having these on his website for hollow bars. So let's get them into place. The non-threaded side first, and then we're going to slip on the threaded side and slowly preset it to where we want it to be. Now, as you're going to tighten your blinker inside of your handlebars, the spreaders will grip on the inside of the handlebars, and as you get to a point of tightness, they will expand and slip on each other like so, locking this into place. Now let's go to the next step, and probably the most frustrating step of this install. Alright, most annoying part of the install. So first, your handlebars. Before you take off your Speedo, mark off your handlebars with a pencil or Sharpie so that you know the orientation they were in before you rotate them. The reason I rotate them is because you're going to have to drill a hole to pass your wiring through the handlebars and out. I drilled it at the very bottom so that when my handlebars are installed in the correct orientation, the hole is hidden. Now, drill out the hole once the handlebars are rotated, and then you're going to have to fish it out. So pass a rigid wire or fish wire or whatever through the hole out to the side so you can hook it onto the Motogadget wiring and then start passing it through. So I'm not going to bore you with the frustrating fishing of the wire, but that is the next step. Drill the hole, pass the wire through so that you can feed the wire back in and down towards your headlights and blinker wiring. Great success. With the wires passed through, my next recommendation is riding a little grommet and putting in the hole so it doesn't cut your wires. So that'll be the next step, and after that we're going to turn the handlebars and lock them back into their factory place. And then I'll show you how to wire them up. Alright, next part is open up your headlight and locate your stock left and right blinkers. The recommendation here is that either source connectors to plug in, or what I did is that do not damage the harness that's coming off your ECU, but I cut off the ends that came off my stock blinkers, and I'm going to wire up my Motogadget blinkers into the stock wiring on the old factory blinker side rather than the ECU harness side. So I'm going to unclip these two, I'm going to connect them to our bar end wiring, and then we're going to plug it back in. All right, for the next part, you have to attach your connectors. So here you can solder them and heat shrink them, which is the best bet. I don't like any twist on connectors or anything. And automotive connectors are going to be too big for this size of wiring. So one of the things I personally like to use, and I'm not sponsored by this, just throwing that out there, is these type of Ginso marine connectors. And basically how they work is they're essentially a sealed heat shrink with solder in the middle. So you just slip them over your wires on both ends, and then by using a heat gun, the solder inside will melt and I'll attach it. So basically it's like soldering it, but only you need a heat gun and some patience, and it's much easier for those of us that are not mechanically inclined. All right, now we got connectors. So before anything, a little tug test, make sure everything is actually soldered on. There's a couple things. Cheap guy point number one, if you don't have a heat gun, and you have a wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, use their hair fan. It works, it's a little slower. And tip number two, be very careful. I mean, I really like the Motogadget bar end blinkers, but man, it's the most dental floss wiring I've ever seen. It's probably like 26 gauge. It is super tiny and a little bit frustrating to work with, so just take your time. Next, we're going to feed the wiring loom that we've made through the back of the housing where all the wires go into your headlight, feed it back in, and then we're going to plug it in and test and connect it. Let's do that next. So, as you can see, I tangled. So that's one of those things where, you know, pay attention. If you don't have to do it twice, right now I have to pull it all back out and reroute it, or I have to disconnect my clutch cable and put this wiring underneath. So just a good tip for everybody, learn from my mistakes. So what connectors are we looking for inside? So I'm going to turn my handlebars here a little bit, and what you're going to find is little black ones like this. So before you button everything up, do a quick test. So let's plug in one of my connectors into it, and we're going to make sure that it is the correct side. So we're going to flick on the power, and then I'm flicking left and I'm flashing right. And I'm hyper flashing right now because I don't have tail lights on, so don't worry about that. So now I need to make sure that I wire these correctly. So I have it wired up wrong. So that's why you do a test before you plug everything together. All right, everything is plugged in. Let's test it again. We'll see if my blinkers will flash in the proper direction. So again, don't mind the hyper flash as I have no taillights on right now, but there you go. And left, we're good. And we're gonna go right, and you can see it flashing right about there. So we are good. So now we can close this up. So that concludes how you do your bar end blinkers. So now all you're going to do is you're going to set your handlebars, kind of adjust them so that everything is oriented the correct way, and tighten things up, and I can demonstrate that too. This is how we orient back our handlebars to make sure everything's in back position. Remember the marks that you made, and now basically jimmy and shift everything over so that your marks line back up to where they should be. Your handlebar screws are M6 Allen bolts, and then you tighten these, and I like going top, opposite bottom, top, opposite bottom. And good and tight is always good for me, but if you want to see these torque specs, they'll be listed below. With everything adjusted, now you can throw a leg over your bike and get your mirrors situated the way you want them to, and then tighten in your Motogadget bar ends, and then secure everything in place, and you're good to go after your headlight is reassembled.